What is good, degenerate gamblers? I'm here to level up your sports betting again for video 3 of how to use the Crazy Ninja Mike Sportsbook De-Vigger. In the first video, we covered all the basics. In the second one, we talked about correlation, how to understand same game parlays and understand the fair odds of same game parlays. In the third video, this one, we're going to get a little bit more advanced, but nothing on its own is actually all that difficult or all that complicated. Every single thing I'm going to show you is actually really easy to do, really easy to understand. I just couldn't put it in the other videos because it would be too long and it'd be kind of overwhelming to throw all that at you at once. So don't be intimidated. This stuff is all really easy, but a lot of it is also really useful and can really help you out when you're just trying to be a winning sports bettor. We're going to talk about the average function today, which is really one of the most important functions on the Crazy Ninja Mike Sportsbook De-Vigger. We're also going to talk about the min and the max functions, which have their place too, and the hit function, which you've probably seen me use on Twitter before, and that has a couple of different important uses. We have a lot to get to today, so let's get right into it. All right, so first let's talk about the average function, and I'm going to use an example. Let's say we have a bet for Mookie Betts to hit a home run. If we wanted to De-Vigger it versus DraftKings, we'd go to DraftKings, we can see, or an odds screen that shows DraftKings, and we can see he's 425 to hit a home run, minus 700 to not hit a home run. You can see the odds right here. And so let's say we have some sort of boost or some sort of bet on another sportsbook where we can bet him for plus 650 to hit a home run. Well, as I've demonstrated in the previous videos, you just put, the yes side here, slash, and then the other side of the bet, minus 700, final odds of 650 because that's what we're getting. And we have a nice bet here. We have an 8.3% edge, but that's just relative to DraftKings. We can get a much better idea on how good the bet actually is if we take a market average, if we take the odds from a bunch of sports books and make sure that 650 looks good to all of these as well. So to do that, it's really not all that complicated. You just look at multiple sports books and then you can use this average function. Just like before, the side that we're betting is going to be first. So we type in AVG and then the odds for Mookie Betts to hit a home run on all of the other sports books that we want to measure against. Right here, you can see I've taken 4 sports books. You can do 3, you can do 10, however many you want. You just separate those individual odds by a comma, close the parenthesis, and then you put a slash here just like you normally would when you're de-vigging a bet. So this is the other side of the bet. AVG for average, parenthesis, and then minus 700, minus 705, minus 800, because those are the no sides for him to hit a home run on these other sports books. And the reason that we're taking a market average is because we don't necessarily trust that DraftKings is always perfectly sharp, especially not in this market, right? We know that DraftKings will limit sharps, and so their odds don't have to be perfect. So we can get a better idea if we take that market average. All you do, just to repeat it, it's AVG, average, parenthesis, and then you just list the odds for that player to hit a home run in order, separated by commas. Well, it doesn't have to be in order, but separated by commas, close the parentheses, then the slash, and then average again, but the other side of the bet. So the no, again, final odds are 650 because that's what we're getting on this bet. That's what we want to measure. And we can hit calculate. See here that we actually still have a nice bet, right? We have a plus 2.8% expected value, worst case. I have this set to worst case right now. So it's still a bet, but maybe we put less on the bet than if we had just de-vigged it versus DraftKings, right? You can see that the Kelly wager is recommending, quarter Kelly 0.32 units, but here we're getting 0.11 units. That is the basics on how you use the average function. It's really not all that complicated, and you can use it for literally any bet. The average function can be useful even if you don't want to take a market average of the whole market because you don't want the opinion of the softer sports books necessarily. If you're just de-vigging a certain bet where you know that 2 books or so, or 2 or 3 books are particularly sharp in that market, let's say you're de-vigging mainline bets and you want to look at Circa and Pinnacle, you can still use the average function for that, right? So if you're de-vigging a bet, you can see, okay, Circa's got the side that I'm betting at 105, Pinnacle's got them at 100. I put the average function in with the parentheses, separate them by a comma, slash for the other side. Now they've got the other sides minus 115, minus 120. Final odds are 110. And again, you just hit calculate like it's any normal bet. I realize that that's the exact same thing that I just showed, but I just wanted to highlight that this can be useful even if you don't want to take an average of the entire market or of a big portion of the market and you just want to use the sharper books. It can still be useful when you use the sharper books because Circa, Pinnacle, Bet Online, those can differ as well too. So it's good to take an average and make sure that your bet looks good to all of them. All right, so that's a quick run through of the averages. You can also use them for one-way odds, which I will get to later. But now let's talk max and min. This is a function that kind of confused me when I first started the De-Vigger, but it's not all that hard. So the max and the min, it's kind of similar to the average function where you're looking at a whole market, but using the max, it's just going to take the highest odds from that market. I'll show you what I mean. So you put it in the De-Vigger just like you would the average, where you have the separate odds from the separate sports books within parentheses separated by a comma, just like this, except instead of AVG for average, you're going to have max in there. So what max does is it takes the highest odds. So it's going to take 428, and that is going to be the odds that it uses for the De-Vig. On the other side, for now, I'm just going to leave average. And notice how it changes the expected value of the bet because it's only taking the highest odds. It's not just taking the average odds. The min will actually take the lowest odds from the bet. So if you wanted to be ultra conservative when de-vigging a market, I mean, this is ultra conservative, but to make sure that you're always getting a great bet is you could actually use the min on the negative side. So it's going to take the lowest odds from this bet. So if you use the max here, it's going to take 428. You're going to take the lowest possible odds, which is minus 982, the highest possible odds of 428. And now this bet actually doesn't look so hot. It looks negative expected value because we're being ultra conservative, taking the lowest possible odds on the no side of the player to hit a home run and the highest possible odds on the yes side for him to hit a home run. This can be useful if you're de-vigging a very limited market. Let's say only 3 sportsbooks have the odds. You're not really sure who is sharp in that market. And so you can take a max or a min or a max and a min, as I showed here, to just be very conservative and make sure that you're getting a great bet. Another thing that you can do with these min and max features is essentially create a super low synthetic hold market. This is going to get a little bit confusing, but you're familiar with the concept of hold probably. Hold is just another term for vig, right? So the spread between the two bets. On a normal sports book, on a normal bet, it's usually like 4 to 5%, right? Minus 110 on one side, minus 110 on another side. Well, if we took the max from both of these bets, you could see we have a super low hold because it would be, 428 and then minus 700 on the other side. You can see the market juice is going to go down substantially to 6.4%. I shouldn't say 6.4% is a super low hold in this example, but it is kind of low for home run hitters because there's pretty high vig in those markets. And just to see what the odds would be if you wanted to do that. A better example of creating that sort of synthetic hold would be on a no run first inning, yes run first inning bet, where we can play the sportsbook's odds against each other and essentially have super low market juice of 0.4% because we took the max of a 105, 100, 110 yes run first inning and then the no max minus 115, minus 120, minus 112. And so you can see it's taking the highest from each of these. So essentially it's 110. And then on the other side, it's minus 112, meaning that we can bet either side and barely lose any money because our synthetic hold is super low. The min and the max feature kind of confused you. It's not a huge deal. It's just another tool for you to use to be a little bit more conservative and to sort of look at bets in different ways. The average function is generally totally fine if you just want to use that. And anyone can understand average functions, literally taking an average of all the odds from these different sports books that we have listed here and coming out with a fair value for them. It's still doing the de-vigging, right? It's not just taking an average. It's taking an average of these first odds, taking an average of these second odds, and then de-vigging them to come up with a fair value. In this example, of course, we are getting plus 630. All right, so let's say we've got this made-up boost for week 1 of NFL season. We've got Patrick Mahomes to throw for over 100 passing yards in the first half and Aaron Rodgers to throw for over 100 passing yards in the first half as part of some sort of parlay boost. Final odds are 450. Well, unfortunately, we look at the sports books and we don't see odds for this anywhere. Nobody has their first half passing total yards. And even if they do, maybe they're way off. Maybe they're like at 150 or something, so it doesn't help us out a lot. What can we do? Well, we can use the hit function. The hit function is not perfect. It works perfectly fine here, but it doesn't take a lot into account. But I'll get into that in a second. So let's say we go back, and because this is week 1, we don't have any of this season's data to go off of. So we look back on their games last year and we'd see, okay, Patrick Mahomes, he's done this 11 out of 16 times. By the way, I just made this up. I don't know how often he actually did it. So he did it 11 out of 16 times. So we type hit here and then parentheses, just like we were doing the average function or the min max. And then we have 11 out of 16 here. That's how many times he did it. This is how many games we're measuring against, 16 games. And then comma, because this is now a separate leg of the parlay. The same thing for Aaron Rodgers. We do hit, parentheses, 5 out of 16. And this is going to kind of create fake odds for us. It'll create what would be the fair odds for that bet. So I'll show you. We'll hit calculate here. And we can see that Patrick Mahomes, he's going to do it about 68.8% of the time based on our historical data based on us looking at last year. And then Aaron Rodgers, 31.3% of the time. Fair value is 220. So fair value for them parlayed together is 365. So we have a great bet here if this boost was actually 450. Now, what you're probably all thinking is this is really incomplete because Aaron Rodgers wasn't even on the Jets last year. So now he's got a totally different team, totally different play caller, offensive line, pass catchers. That will certainly skew the odds one way or another. We don't even know who they're facing. Are they facing a good defense? Are they coming into this season injured or totally healthy? There's a lot of stuff that goes into Vegas's odds, which is why typically we want to use Vegas's odds rather than trying to create our own odds doing simple things like this. The hit function works perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with how Mike coded it. It works totally fine, but it just doesn't take a lot into account. And so we only kind of want to use this as a last resort to give us some sort of idea if a bet is good. And then maybe if it's clearly good like this, oh, we have an 18% edge, maybe we can look into it further and see, does this make sense? Hit function is really simple. If this was a 3-leg parlay, by the way, we just, add another comma and then do the exact same thing. It was Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, and Russell Wilson to throw for over 100 passing yards in the first half. When we go back and we look at Russell Wilson, either historical data or just last year's data, and let's say he's done it 6 out of 16 times, then we would just type that right in for Russell Wilson, and then that would just be the third leg of our parlay. Pretty simple. Another way you can use the hit function is on percentages. So if you know that a bet is going to hit 58% of the time because of some DFS site you use or some pro handicapper that hopefully actually knows what he's doing, and you're like, this bet is going to hit 58% of the time, you can put that in here, hit parentheses 58%, close parentheses, and then again, if you have a bet that's going to hit 70%, and then it's going to give you the fair value or the actual American odds for that win percentage. All right, I'm going to wrap things up here because this video will just get way too long and I still have a lot of information to go off of, but that next video will be out literally tomorrow, so you won't have to wait long for it. In that video, we're going to talk about even better stuff, really, because we're talking about interpolation, how to do one-way lines and get the fair odds when we only have one side. A little bit strange, but I promise I'll show you, and talk about how to share your bets and how to make notes on the Crazy Ninja Mike De-Vigger. So there's a lot of good stuff coming tomorrow, so stay tuned for that. If you have any questions about it, feel free to let me know and I will hope to clarify. Good luck on your bets tonight. Not that you need it since you're betting with an edge. Thanks.